The two of you were high school sweethearts. He had asked you out by taking you as his homecoming date during your second year. He knew your favorite foods, your favorite song, your favorite color. He was addicted, to say the very least. He loved every little thing about you. The two of you graduated together. You were inseparable, and you already knew that there was so much you were going to miss doing as soon as you were done with your high school lives. Sneaking into each other's dorms late at night, training together, study sessions with him and your friends, and the dates you took on weekends. All of it was nothing but a memory to you now. It had only been 3 days since graduation, but here you were at the airport, suitcase in hand and tears in your eyes. Your friends surrounded you, and they all said their farewells, Todoroki strangely remaining silent beside you the entire time. He held your hand as you said your goodbyes and talked about where you would go and the things you might see. He walked with you to the boarding area. You, thinking he might be disappointed in you for leaving, tried to start a conversation. You started with a nervous laugh, trying to smile for him. Was he mad at you for taking the offer? So, America, right? You said, looking up at him. You gulped. His face was stoic. Shoto? You asked him, your voice shaking. Tears welled in your eyes, and you pulled your hand from his, standing in front of him. You had always been sort of a crybaby. You sniffed, tears running down your face. Shoto, are you mad at me or something? You asked. Why won't you talk to me? Your eyes widened at his face. Despite the fact that you kept looking up at him, you never really noticed his expression. He was sad. He moved forward without a word, hugging you close to him. He smelled like coffee and fresh-baked bread, similar to the cafe the two of you went to earlier that morning. I'm not mad, he spoke quietly. Just scared, Todoroki admitted, his voice shaking. America. He pulled away and put his hands on your shoulders. You looked into his eyes, which were now filled with tears as well. Listener, I'm so proud of you. Believe me, it's just... He paused, his multicolored eyes glancing to the side. It's so far away, and for so long. He looked away from you, moving one of his hands to wipe his tears. His smile widened as he looked back at you, the smile genuine and his eyes shining with pride. You'll do amazing. I know you will. You hugged him again, burying your face in his chest. Thank you, you whispered to him. He wiped your tears and the two of you joined hands again. He led you to your terminal and gave you a kiss. Let me know as soon as you land, okay? He pleaded. Your hands intertwined in front of the two of you. Okay, I will. I promise. You pulled him into another kiss, but this one was longer, deeper, and more passionate than the first. His hand slid to the small of your back before going down and putting them in the back pocket of your jeans. Yours slid around his neck to close the gap between the two of you. The two of you stayed like this for only a few moments before an alarm on your phone began to go off at an obnoxiously loud volume. You pulled back from your boyfriend and went to shut it off as quickly as possible, a blush on your face. Todoroki was breathing a little heavier than usual, slightly winded from the kiss. Sorry, you squeaked, embarrassed. I set an alarm to go off right before... You were cut off by a chime dinging from the speaker system of the airport. A woman's voice spoke in a calm tone. Final call for the plane to New York, Terminal 707. New York, final call. You looked back up at your boyfriend before grabbing your things. Before that... You leaned up and kissed him one last time. I love you, Shoto. You smiled. He loved that smile. You'll do great, he called to you as he watched you walk away. You hadn't mentioned it, meaning that Todoroki had gotten away with something. When he slid his hands into that back pocket of your jeans, he had slipped a note he had written in there. He smirked, shoving his hands into his own pockets. You had been scouted to go on a 2-year trip to America. It was a huge opportunity considering the pro hero who had scouted you to help out was the number 2 hero in America. Aquamarine was admired by people even in Japan. She was smart, agile, and powerful. Her quirk was similar to that of your old classmate, Tsuyu Asui, meaning she could maneuver well in water. The shoreline hero could use hydrokinesis. Granted, it wasn't a very flashy quirk, but the way she used it made her strong and showed people that any quirk can be used for good. You were beyond ecstatic when you had gotten the news, but now that you were seated on the plane, you couldn't help but want to rush off and back into the arms of your boyfriend. However, now that was something you couldn't do. There was no turning back. It was a 14-hour trip, and despite leaving the Tokyo airport at 9 a.m., it was 8 a.m. in New York when you arrived, and thanks to the creepy guy who kept staring at you from the window seat, you didn't sleep much on the plane. After another half-hour drive in a taxi from someone who didn't seem to understand that even though you spoke English, he felt the need to speak broken Japanese to you. He had tried to ask where you were going in Japanese, but he obviously didn't study from a reliable source because he asked, Aaaa I, which didn't really mean much of anything. You didn't have the energy to argue with him, so in English, you told him the address. After thankfully realizing what he was doing was stupid, he didn't say much the rest of the car ride. You arrived at the apartment complex, fiddled with the key you had been mailed, and flopped down on the nearest comfy-looking surface, abandoning your bags in the hallway in front of the closed door. When you awoke, you had no idea what time it was or where you were for a few moments. Realizing it was now 1 in the afternoon, you shoved yourself off the couch with a yawn and grabbed your bags to unpack. Finally putting everything away and sitting down again, it was late evening. You decided to make something to eat, only then realizing you had no groceries. You peeked in the mirror to make sure your hair was at least halfway decent. After fixing it to your satisfaction, you grabbed your bag and headed out the door. Even though it was late evening, from the quiet neighborhood your apartment was in, you could hear and see the lights and sounds of the big city that was New York City. Finding your way to a near 24-hour convenience store, you grabbed a few small things from a deli that you would eat for dinner that night. Your stomach growled and you sighed, already missing Shoto's cooking. Walking back to your apartment, you had time to take in the sights and smells of the big city. This definitely wasn't Tokyo. America was a lot different than the capital of Japan, and according to Aqua, this huge city wasn't even the capital. It wasn't even in the same state. You had to ask about the states too, because in Japan there are just provinces, which you figured were just the same thing, but they really weren't. Arriving back at your apartment, you sighed, your eyes focused on the floor, and you slipped your shoes off at the door. You walked into the kitchen and grabbed your purchases out of the plastic bag. What you saw at your kitchen table made you drop the instant noodles out of your hand. Jaw agape, you stared at the dinner on the table and the empty seat across from a certain someone. Shoto? You squeaked out in surprise. You felt like you were seeing a ghost, and might as well just crumple to the floor. What the hell are you doing here? You asked him. He just simply smiled at you. Waiting for you to get back from the store. Where did you even go? You were gone forever, he teased. You mean you were here before I even left? You asked, still absolutely befuddled as to why your boyfriend was here instead of in Japan. Yep, he chuckled. You were asleep on the couch. I had to stop myself from what I was originally planning, seeing that you were probably exhausted from your flight. He then glanced at something that was falling out of your back pocket. He recognized it almost immediately. You didn't even read my note, did you? He questioned, leaning forward onto his hands. Note? You followed his gaze to your back pocket. Digging around, you pulled out a small folded note. You opened it to read, I'll be sure to stop at the store before dinner. I love you, Shoto. You looked up at him with a small smirk as he stood and walked over to you, adding, I suppose it wouldn't make much sense until now, but I couldn't just stay in Japan while my lovely YN was way out here in America. Now could I? He put his hands on the small of your back and smiled down at you. Are you happy to see me? He whispered to you with a soft smirk. You smiled, looking down as he blushed. I'm always happy to see you, Shoto. You let your eyes meet his, and with a smile, he kissed you before leading you to the table for dinner. Hello, my little snowflakes. I am so sorry this one is so late. I finally had the motivation and time and energy to actually finish it, and hopefully a video won't be this late ever again. But I've got a few that I'm working on right now, and the side story is in fact in progress, so that'll be neat to check out when it comes out. It's co-written, so I'm writing it with one other person, so I'm not sure if she's gonna do anything with it, or if I'm just gonna be the one posting it, but it's definitely gonna be interesting if what it's about is what you're interested in, and I will make a video explaining it before the first chapter comes out. So, yeah, that should be interesting. I hope another video won't be as late as this one was, but considering the fact that school is back in session and I still don't have a lot of motivation and energy, we'll see. We'll see. Thank you guys for sticking around, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!